Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time we talk about the top 5 worst games of 2018.
Well, I could do a whole lot more than 5.
Hot take.
Now, there was a lot of fun games that came out in 2018 that we both really liked.
Yeah.
Some old ones, some new ones. But one thing that's for sure is that this year was pretty bad for having a bunch of games that we expected to be very good or at least playable be totally terrible.
Yeah, sometimes you can call a dumpster fire from a mile away, and sometimes it just sneaks up on you and it's smelly and hot.
Surprise dumpster fires. So, look, folks, this list, we're probably going to get a little angry when we go down it, but here's a list from the worst to the even worser.
Top 5. Number 5.
Now, I was a pretty big fan of the original Culling. I played it a lot. I was actually working at a company that was contracting me to make videos, so I was kind of involved with the first one in terms of
Is this full
marketing.
disclosure?
Yeah, just so people can understand, right?
Yeah.
I liked the first one regardless. I thought it was really cool. And it was at the very early days of Battle Royale gameplay, right?
Yeah,
so there wasn't a lot out there.
Was this before PUBG exploded?
Yeah, it was before PUBG,
sure.
right? So it was a really neat game. And my biggest criticisms with the game were consistently they weren't adding new maps, they weren't adding a lot of new features, they seemed to be very slow on development. We had really good building blocks, but they kind of refused to move it forward. And for a little bit there, everyone was talking about the Culling, and then after a couple weeks, it just died away because the developers did not put enough time and effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
fast forward.
I was pretty excited when they announced a Culling 2.
Yeah.
A lot of fans weren't, though, because they felt they got burnt from having purchased the first game and not getting their money out of it. So, once you're going to announce a sequel, the idea is you don't work on the first one anymore. So we were expecting a lot of things to happen with the Culling 2.
So a lot of people that played that first game, they're like, well, there's a sequel. Usually when you make a sequel, you keep the core of what that game is, and then you make it a little bit bigger and a little grander in some ways.
That didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. What happened with the Culling 2 is the massive train wreck that you cannot even play now. So if you want to play the Culling 2, and I actually have the Culling 2 on my Xbox right now, like I actually have like the thing on there, I can't install it and play it because the servers are gone, right? It's completely offline. Here's what happened. When they made the Culling, they had somewhat of an original idea. They didn't create Battle Royale by any means, but they had some cool concepts at play. But then they saw PUBG, so they copied PUBG wholesale. That was a really stupid move. Instead of taking everything they did good with the first game and move it forward, they decided to just basically rip off another game. But they did it quick, they did it on the cheap, there was terrible graphics, the game was buggy, unresponsive, the servers were a mess, barely anyone was playing if you managed to get on, and it was just an awful experience that felt like a copy and paste. And I mean copy and paste in the most generic ways, like they went to a library of assets online and just bought a whole bunch of models to throw into the game. It ended up being a completely terrible experience.
I think the lack of effort or the lack of a clear end game point for them was mirrored in the reception of the game, because no one, like, sometimes a bad game comes out and then a bunch of people buy it, and then they say, oh, this is terrible. A bunch of people didn't buy this.
No,
no one was playing this when it was released.
What really got me was at the time PUBG was not working that great. It was still struggling. They were having a lot of issues with the game, and when the Culling came around to release part 2, I was like, okay, I get it. They're going to try and they figured out something that's going to surpass them.
We can make that better.
Yeah,
right.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
They actually made it worse than what PUBG was doing at the time. It performed terribly on like everything you could play it on. I was so shocked to see that company and that team do something so lazy, whether that was the reason to do it or not. Now, my assumption of what was going on was they quickly put together, I don't know, this is my thought, I might not be accurate on it. They took this quick, fast method of a game, pushed it out so that they could get a lot of controversy really quick. Then they got rid of the game and told everybody, hey, the Culling 1 still exists. Everybody go back to Culling 1. Maybe that was the goal, but it didn't work. Instead of making the Culling a better game, they basically tried to put more money into a copycat experience. Yeah, the whole thing is a mess. The game isn't even around anymore, and I think that makes it one of the worst things, is that even if it was just a bad game, if it was still around, people could point to it and at least say that's a bad game. There's an example of a bad game, but we can't even do it now. That's how bad it was.
It's been wiped from history. Let's all forget it together.
But is it the only one that's been wiped from history?
Oh, no, sir.
Number 4.
Cliffy B.
Yep, Cliff Bleszinski, the head of the now defunct Boss Key Games. They developed a couple of titles, and none of which really grabbed an audience, let's say. The first of which was Lawbreakers,
yes,
I believe.
Now, this isn't about Lawbreakers. Lawbreakers is a pretty interesting first-person shooter that's using traditional tournament mechanics, kind of like deathmatch mechanics, stuff you would have seen in Quake or Unreal. It's not a bad idea.
I heard it was competent.
Yeah. The problem was, and I actually played it a little bit.
Did you? Okay.
The problem was that what they created was such an old flavor, and nobody wanted that again. Like enough time hadn't passed that made people hunger for that gameplay.
A little game called Overwatch came out, I think, slightly before it, so no one was paying attention at all.
People seem to only be able to pay attention to so many first-person shooters at a given time,
True.
and that one just completely got wasted under there. So this game, not a bad game. It got totally burnt out. So the group behind that game did a last-ditch effort, put all their money behind one project, and they made this project super quick. It came out, and it was like gone in a blink of an eye. And I mean, like, the servers were turned off, the entire thing crashed. That game, and the one that made our number 4, is Radical Heights.
Oh my gosh, talk about a horribly done, like, Fortnite cash grab.
Yeah.
All the colors were there, all the, like, kooky fun was there, but it was done so quickly, there was nothing there. There's no meat. It was so janky and problematic.
There's actually, like, parts of the game that were clearly unfinished.
Yes.
Like, unfinished assets and stuff were in the game, and I guess they were really rushing to get it out. But there was this problem, right, where when we're talking about the Culling 2, and the reason why the Culling 2 is at number 5 is because the Culling 2 is a sequel to the Culling, right? I will accept that you make another Battle Royale game after you made a Battle Royale game, but what ended up happening with Radical Heights was that they didn't understand what made Battle Royale so good.
All they saw was the high watermark that was the sales figures for Battle Royale games like PUBG or Fortnite. And they're like, no, well, we can do that. And then I'm guessing their plan was, no, let's release it unfinished. Sure, there's problems with it, but it'll just be one of those games where we keep adding things to it, and then eventually the audience will continue coming and getting bigger.
See, it's like the developers don't understand how this works. Now, look, we're not knocking down anybody that has been involved in any of these games we're about to talk about today. Cliffy B is a very, I'm going to keep calling him Cliffy B just because I remember talking about him like years and years ago.
Yeah.
But like he's a very good game developer. He's been working in the game industry for a very long time.
Supposedly he's not making games anymore, but
probably not. I'm a big fan of Jazz Jackrabbit, dude. I go far back on that. But here's the problem.
Yes.
When you're looking at a game that's like a Battle Royale game, you're definitely in competition with games like Fortnite. Fortnite was not a Battle Royale game initially. It was a completely different game, and they modified that into a Battle Royale game. That's the transition you want to make.
Yes.
Take Lawbreakers, turn that into a Battle Royale game.
Yeah,
you don't just make an entirely new game from nothing and scratch, because here's what ended up happening, okay? When they made this game, it wasn't working that well. But when they made Fortnite was working because the engine, the core, the philosophy, everything there. And what's really crazy is, why would you want to steal the Fortnite idea from a group of people that already stole it from somebody else?
Right.
Because at that point, you left Epic to go work on new things. Why would you leave Epic to go turn on to basically make what they were just making? Taking their table scraps and hoping you got like some meal from that, but you didn't.
So here's the thing about Fortnite, and something that I think the team at Boss Key Games is probably looking at. The team at Fortnite said, hey, our game can be made into a Battle Royale game, and we have other mechanics. You can build things. And it's more fun. It looks different. It plays different than the other Battle Royale game that's huge right now. What Boss Key Games should have done is the exact same thing. Okay, well, Fortnite was doing things different, and it looked different, and they surpassed PUBG. They made a name for themselves. They had something different going on. They should have done something, like you said, they could have taken the Lawbreakers
That's what I'm saying.
assets, or some of the work that was gone into that game and done something different. You don't just completely emulate Fortnite.
All the Battle Royale games, okay, they all kind of have the same kind of play when it comes to Fortnite. You're building things. How about this? Lawbreakers was dealing with gravity mechanics and like faster kinds of styles of gunplay.
Yeah.
Why not take all that and turn that into to a larger map and make that the Battle Royale thing, because nobody else had that. It would have been really different and unique. A Battle Royale map that you can go under and around and over and just change the way you would actually go at a battle. That would have been so cool. But what we got was not that. They just basically invented a game from nothing, ended up destroying the company.
If they had something that was multi-leveled, they could even do how that's usually a circle that goes in. They could have incorporated the whole sphere of shrinkage there. It's a very simple thing that they could have done, but that's just one of many.
This is just us thinking off the top of our heads, right? Unfortunately, this ended up falling through. It's at no one's, fault for all that stuff that happened.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this is just the thing. There were options out there that clearly were smarter options. You're right. Hindsight is 2020, but clearly this was the wrong way to go.
Number 3.
A Metal Gear game without one very big name attached to it.
Kojima!
That's right. Metal Gear Survive is by far one of the most disappointing releases of 2018.
Now, I typically don't talk about games that I haven't played, but I'm more than happy not to play this one. I am a huge fan of the Metal Gear series. I've been playing it for years and years and years. I remember emulating an MSX just so I could play the originals that were translated by fans way back in the day. I've been such a longtime fan of that entire series. I remember pre-ordering Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2. I remember doing stuff like that because I loved every aspect of the series. Metal Gear was a lifestyle. But when you made Metal Gear Survive, Konami, what were you trying to do?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand what zombie survival had to do with Metal Gear.
Let's look at this from the sort of boss key approach as well. It's developers looking at a specific style of game, like the survival style of game that was doing quite well on Steam for a while there.
Sure.
It's Konami saying, hey, we have all these assets that, that the team at Kojima's team was working on. Let's just reuse them. Let's reuse the map.
How about no?
Let's reuse these textures.
There must have been one person sitting at the office when, you know what, guys? We might be drunk. Wouldn't have somebody? Seriously.
He was fired the next day.
It is the dumbest idea to do what they did. If you really wanted to make some kind of building survival thing running with the Fox engine, go make another game. This has literally nothing to do with Metal Gear Solid besides the name.
Exactly my point. It has the name. That's all that I believe that Konami was banking on. Hey, no, sure, the gameplay isn't compelling, but Metal Gear... And you know what's the worst thing to me is that in the very beginning of the game, all relevant characters leave.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point? They don't have any of those people around.
They're just no-name grunts trying to fend off, diamond-headed zombies, jewel-headed zombies?
Look, what they should have done here, this is very simple. We're trying to find a solution to this thing. If you really needed to make another Metal Gear game, make another Metal Gear game. Just make something simple. Make something easy, a smaller mission, something like that. Or give the fans the tools to make the missions themselves. If that's what you have to do, I get it. You're going to be making more Metal Gear games soon, eventually, maybe. Do it. Have fun. You already got rid of the head creator. Now it's time for a new idea of Metal Gear games. Not the most crazy thing in the world if you can make it work. But your first step out of the gate, you decide to just smash your face off of a brick wall repeatedly? Why would you do that? It is such a bizarre concept to bring Metal Gear Solid on. They might have just done, you know what would have been better? And I'm not even saying I want this because I don't. Silent Hill. A Silent Hill zombie survival game. Because at least in that, there are monsters in that universe.
That would make sense. And I know that Konami has done experiences sort of, kind of like that. So maybe that was them saying we've already tried that and it didn't really work. So, yeah... When you think of Metal Gear Solid, you think about how much food you're eating and how hydrated you are, right? Those are the first two things that jump into your head. How about poking zombies with a stick through a chain link fence?
You know what you really could do? Here, all the money you spent on Metal Gear Survive, which I have to imagine was $50 and a freaking donut. Seriously, whatever the cost of that was, why didn't you just put it to finishing Metal Gear Solid 5? It's still not done yet. How did we get a Metal Gear Survive game when Metal Gear Solid 5 isn't finished? It's literally unfinished. And I know that there's a whole bunch of the game that's already been recorded and done, and you just can't release it because it's in broken parts. Why not release the third part of that game? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Yeah, people would have actually played that.
Number 2.
Hey, Shane?
Yeah.
Remember when I was talking about dumpster fires and stuff?
Are you, we're good?
Yeah.
The biggest dumpster fire of the year?
Yeah.
Okay,
You may have heard us talk about a little game called Fallout 76 a couple of times on Hot Take.
It's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
It's confusingly bad. Now, you're probably wondering, why did Fallout 76 go above Metal Gear Survive, go above Culling 2 and Radical Heights? Well, here's the reasons, folks. The Culling 2, you can't play anymore, so its sins are gone. Same thing with Radical Heights. And hey, Metal Gear Survive might be a terrible game, but it's functional.
And at least it didn't get the adoption rate of another game.
Sure.
It got very few players, right?
This is supposed to be a main entry into the Fallout series of games. This isn't, oh, our main creator of the game walked away and now we have to build the pieces up. Oh, we're running out of money. Let's quickly make another game because we have to. Oh, we need to make a sequel, but we don't know how to do it. This was, you took from the words of the developers themselves, they took a whole bunch of companies together to make assets for this one Fallout experience, and it sucks. It's not even like remotely a good game. There are so many bad problems with it, whether it be the narrative, the gameplay, the stability, the graphics, everything is bad with that game.
Not only are the things that you just named bad, but this game was straight up, it was filled with lies.
Yeah.
From the very top. Like Todd Howard getting on stage at E3 saying like, yeah, it's a multiplayer game, but if you want to play single player, it's still going to be pretty good too.
And yeah, hey Todd, I tried to do that, Todd. I was there. I tried. I looked through that menu. Todd wouldn't lie to me. It's got to be somewhere there, but it wasn't.
You should have a shirt that says Todd wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, the lies stemmed from that all the way to people getting the collector's editions and not getting what they paid for, which is so ridiculous. It's like they looked at a map of things not to do and they just checked everything off.
But then they didn't even do the check marks right. Like, I mean, it's everything about this, folks. It's look, Fallout 76 is still active and online as of the recording of this video.
It's going free to play.
We think. It will. We think.
I've been saying this since day one. It's going free to play.
Here's the thing. The game sold a lot of copies, and everyone is
so
upset.
So it was sold as a budget title, right? Like $10?
No, it was sold full price.
Exactly.
They put huge marketing budgets behind it. A whole bunch of people were just so angry for what this was and how it came to be. Let me be fair, all right? What Fallout 76 is can eventually be fixed. We've done several videos about this, but as it stands now, weeks after it has come out, it still isn't close to being a good game. And I firmly believe at this point that it's never going to be a good game. And if it eventually does become a good game, the faith that everyone has had in the franchise has been burnt out so much that we're way more excited about the creators of Fallout New Vegas making a new game than the actual creators of the new series of Fallout games.
Yeah, the Outer Worlds is coming out soon. And maybe forget about Fallout for a little bit.
Now look, if Fallout 76 wasn't the worst experience out there, what was?
That's not our number one?
No. This is...
Number 1.
Here we are. Spotlight. The worst game on our list. Worst games of 2008.
Yeah.
Worst game. Not a game.
Not a game.
Not a game.
Not a game.
20 of them.
20. PlayStation Classic. Now,
it's hardware.
A lot of you there are probably thinking, why would you say the PlayStation Classic? Isn't Fallout 76 or any other games we mentioned worse?
No.
Here's the reason why.
Why is that?
PlayStation Classic is a collection of 20 games that were, arguably it was the wrong collection of games, but even then, many of those games were good. However, Sony managed to re-release good functioning games in a poorly non-functioning way, which makes the games worse. All you had to do was take a game and release it properly. All you had to do, and you didn't do that. This is the most mind-bogglingly biggest problem I've ever seen. You took PAL region games that ran worse than the North American region games, and you did that for no reason. Oh, some people out there are like, but this system can come out in Europe now and it can work. Doesn't matter. Europeans have modern televisions like everyone else. We all have the same kind of television standards. It doesn't matter. As long as you get NTSC games, it would have been one of the first times ever that people in Europe would have been able to play the original versions of these games the way that they were intended to be played. But no, we got PAL region versions of games, broken versions of games, games that ran at the wrong frame rate, controls that didn't work all that well, and just very bad options in general.
Shane, you know what makes this even worse?
What?
The fact that Sony has been taking these ROMs and putting it onto its store and emulating them well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get that. You could
buy
literally...
a Vita,
yes,
and you could play these games, and it's beautiful. PSP, wonderful. PS3, awesome. Like, dude...
All they had to do was just
They had 20 years!
All they had to do...
They had 20 years to get this right!
All they had to do was just take the PlayStation TV, okay, the thing they already released, put it in a PlayStation-like box, and then sell it! And they didn't do that, so what you got was something that took more effort to create something bad. You know, the reason why it's number one on the list is because everyone else at least had to make a game. But the PlayStation people decided to demake or horribly mutilate the games they already had.
They literally had to do next to nothing as far as developing new games are concerned.
You just walked into the PlayStation offices, go to the one dude to the left that's still managing the PlayStation TV stuff and go, "Hey Jim, we want that in that box." And he would have went, "Done." But you didn't go to that guy. You messed it up. I have no idea how this happened. And you know what's hilarious? We've been going to stores and we've been seeing nothing but stacks of PlayStation classics everywhere.
Serves them right.
Nobody wants them.
Yeah.
Because I assumed the average consumer is not going to care. They're not going to know. But guess what? Maybe they don't even care about the PlayStation to begin with.
Dude, you know what's even worse about this? Is that when the machine was hacked, people found the other games that were tested on the unit.
Yeah.
And that library was good.
Yes.
Instead, we have games like Rainbow Six that are on there that's like, what? And Grand Theft Auto, the PAL version of Grand Theft Auto?
Like
the PAL version of Tekken 3.
The worst
Tekken 3
versions of these games. The
Jumping
worst
Flash. Worst version of Jumping Flash.
But why? Why would they do any of that? It makes no sense to me. This is why it's at the top of the list, folks. At least, the folks that made Fallout 76 were trying to make a new experience. It doesn't even matter that they borrowed the engine and many of the assets from the other games, whatever. At least they were trying to make something new. You can make something new and fail. That's fine. Sony wasn't trying to make anything new. In fact, it's not even the first classic system on the market. Nintendo beat them to the punch with the NES and SNES Classic, giving them a perfect blueprint of what they need to copy, and they didn't even copy that.
We've been talking about the problems we've had with folks looking at games like Fortnite and copying them. This is the one instance when I would have said, it's okay. You can copy the SNES Classic or the NES Classic. They do things well. The PlayStation Classic has no excuse. They dug the corpse of the PS1 out of the Sony graveyard just to whack it in the head with the shovel.
And the worst part is, we still don't have PlayStation 1 games to download on the digital storefront on the PlayStation 4. Why? You better give me one good reason why. Hey, here's something. If you in the future want to release another PlayStation Classic for whatever stupid reason you might want to do it, at least include a code so that we can take those games and put it on a system where it would work. This is a joke. And the fact that they're at the number, they're the worst thing that happened this year for gaming shouldn't be. We were so excited about this at the beginning of things.
You broke my little heart.
Like, how...
Look at my shirt. How can I even wear this anymore?
You really shouldn't. Folks, this is the worst list of games from 2018. There was plenty of games out there that we could have brought on, ones that were functionally worse or something like that. But this list here defines the biggest failures. Things we were hoping to see better things in, and just getting nothing. Or shocking surprises like Radical Heights that shouldn't exist in general.
Yes, it's disappointment to utter failure. It is horrible, horrible. I hope that 2019 brings some amazing things. I'm sure there will be some dumpster fires, but I hope for the best.
And you know what, Sony? If you are ever thinking about releasing another PlayStation Classic, ask for help from someone that knows what they're doing.